On the 18th of March, Iranian ballistic missiles struck Ras Laffan industrial city in Qatar. That is the single largest natural gas facility on Earth. It supplies roughly a fifth of the world's natural gas exports. Iran launched 5 missiles. Qatar intercepted 4. The 5th got through. Qatar Energy confirmed fires and what it called extensive damage to the complex. This was a direct response. Hours earlier, Israeli warplanes hit Iran's largest gas reserves on the planet in a strike that was coordinated with and approved by the Trump White House. Iran watched its own gas infrastructure burn, and it answered by hitting Qatar's. Then Trump posted a statement saying Israel had acted out of anger, that the United States knew nothing about the attack, and that Qatar was in no way involved. The same strike that 2 officials confirmed Washington approved is now a strike Washington says it knew nothing about. Over the next few minutes, I'm going to break down exactly what happened at Ras Laffan, how Israel has just escalated this war beyond anyone's ability to control it, and what all of this means for your oil and gas prices right now. Before the missiles even launched, Iran told the world exactly what was coming. The IRGC published a target list naming energy facilities in Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE. The message was not subtle. These facilities will be targeted in the coming hours. Evacuate immediately. Then they followed through. And Ras Laffan was not just hit once. This facility had already been offline since March 2nd, when earlier Iranian drone strikes forced Qatar to shut down all gas production. That halt alone sent European gas prices up 50% overnight. Now there is structural damage on top of a facility that was already dark. This is not something you restart by flipping a switch. Every day of physical damage adds months of repair time. Qatar's gas output, a fifth of the world's supply, is not coming back anytime soon. Qatar's response was the harshest diplomatic move the country has made in this entire war. The foreign ministry declared Iran's military and security attachés persona non grata 24 hours to leave. The official statement called the strike a flagrant violation of sovereignty and a direct threat to national security. And Qatar reserved the right to act in self-defense under international law. But Trump's statement went further than just distancing Washington from the South Pars strike. He threatened that if Iran hits Qatar's gas facility again, the United States will, with or without Israel, massively blow up the entirety of the South Pars gas field at a level of destruction Iran has never seen. That is the President of the United States publicly threatening to destroy the largest gas reserve on the planet, a reserve that sits directly above a deposit shared with Qatar, the very country he says he is protecting. Hours after Ras Laffan was hit, Abu Dhabi shut down the Habshan gas facility, and the Bab oil field after debris from intercepted Iranian missiles fell on both sides. No injuries reported. But here is what makes Habshan critical. It is the starting point of the 248-mile Abu Dhabi crude oil pipeline, the 80-cop line running from Habshan to Fuera. That pipeline handles an estimated 1.5 million barrels per day. It is the UAE's only export route that bypasses the Strait of Hormuz. When Habshan goes offline, the bypass goes with it. Iran also struck Saudi Arabia's eastern province, home to the kingdom's major oil fields. Earlier in the war, Saudi Aramco's Ras Tanura refinery was hit earlier in the war and temporarily shut, but Reuters reported it restarted on March 13th. On March 18th, Iran struck or attempted to strike targets in Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE, while other Gulf states remained on high alert. The UAE Ministry of Defense reported intercepting 10 ballistic missiles and 45 drones from Iran the day before. 5 countries hit in a single day. The largest LNG facility on Earth extensively damaged. The UAE's Hormuz bypass threatened and Saudi refining capacity offline. That is the scale of what happened on March 18th. But the question you should be asking is why? Why did Iran escalate to this level on this particular day? And we need to talk about the 48 hours that came before because they explain everything. On March 17th, overnight, Israeli airstrikes killed Ali Larijani, the Secretary of Iran's Supreme National Security Council. That title does not do the man justice. Larijani was the most powerful surviving officials in the Islamic Republic. After Israel assassinated Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei on February the 28th, the opening day of this war, former Israeli National Security Advisor Mir Ben-Shabbat put it plainly. Since Khamenei's death, Larijani managed the fight against Israel and served as the chief coordinator of Iran's security bodies. He was 67. He was one of the most influential surviving figures in Tehran after Khamenei's death, a veteran power broker with ties across Iran's political, clerical, and security institutions. He had previously led Iran's nuclear negotiations with the West between 2005 and 2007. He was also a former Speaker of Parliament. If any single person inside Tehran had the authority and the relationships to negotiate a ceasefire with Washington, it was Larijani. Israel killed him alongside Brigadier General Golresa Soleimani, the commander of Iran's Basaj paramilitary force. Iran's Supreme National Security Council confirmed both deaths through the semi-official Mehr news agency. The statement also confirmed that Larihan's son, Morteza, the head of his office, Alireza Bey, and several guards were killed in the same strike. Netanyahu went on television and publicly celebrated Larijani's killing. On the same day, Donald Trump told reporters he did not know who to negotiate with inside Iran. The United States says it cannot find a negotiating partner while simultaneously helping to assassinate the only people who had the stature and the institutional backing to be that partner. Treats at the Quincy Institute framed it directly. The Israelis have fought to drag the United States into a full war with Iran for over 20 years. It is in their interest to prolong this war and to kill off any potential off-ramp that Trump may be looking for. Whether or not you agree with Parsi's framing, the operational facts support it. 3 of the 4 most senior Iranian officials killed in this war were people with direct lines to the civilian government, the IRGC, and the clerical establishment. They were connectors, and they are gone. Then less than 24 hours later, Israel struck again. Intelligence Minister Ezel Khatib killed in a precision airstrike in Thrawn. That is 3 senior assassinations in 48 hours. Israeli Defense Minister Katz made a statement that deserves to be quoted exactly. Israel's policy is clear and unequivocal. No one in Iran has immunity, and everyone is a target. Khatib had a $10 million American bounty on his head. Israel said it had killed Intelligence Minister Ismail Khatib, and Iranian officials later acknowledged his death. In Tran, thousands flooded Revolution Square for the funeral procession of Larian Hani in Soleimani, chanting through the city, grief converting into a national demand for retaliation. Iran's new supreme leader, Moshtaba Kham, the son of the slain Ali Kham, issued a public statement. Every drop of spilled blood comes at a price, and the criminal murderers of these martyrs will soon have to pay it. That was not a eulogy, that was a targeting order wrapped in religious language, and the retaliation did not stop at missiles. We need to talk about what Israel did on the morning of March 18th because it is the trigger that turned this into an energy war. The Israeli Air Force hit natural gas processing facilities at South Pars and Asaluya in Iran's Bushehr province. This was the first strike on Iranian natural gas infrastructure in the entire war. South Pars is not just another gas field, it produces roughly 75% of Iran's total natural gas output. It is the largest natural gas reserve on the planet, and critically, it is connected underground to Qatar's North Field. Same deposit. 2 countries draw from it. Axios reported that the strike had been coordinated with the White House, and the Wall Street Journal separately reported that Trump knew about it in advance and supported it. But Trump later publicly said the United States had no involvement and no prior knowledge. The stated rationale was that it was a signal of what could come next if Iran continued choking the Strait of Hormuz. Trump posted on Truth Social shortly after, "We are rapidly putting them out of business." But the real calculation was more cynical than that. The Trump administration had previously blocked strikes on Iranian oil infrastructure because of the price spike it would cause. Gas, an Israeli official explained, was considered less of a concern on the price front. That distinction matters. Washington did not greenlight this strike for strategic reasons. It greenlit it because it believed gas would not move markets the way oil would. That bet was wrong within hours. Iran's Ministry of Petroleum confirmed damage to multiple facilities. State media reported gas tanks and parts of a refinery hit. Workers evacuated. Fires brought under control. But the downstream impact was immediate. Iranian gas flows to Iraq were cut off. Iran supplies between 30 and 40% of Iraq's electricity and gas. Baghdad's lights were now directly connected to Israeli targeting decisions. Qatar's foreign ministry condemned the South Pars strike instantly and not out of solidarity with Thrawn. Qatar's spokesperson, Majed Al-Ansari, called it a dangerous and irresponsible step and pointed out that South Pars is an extension of Qatar's own North Field. Targeting energy infrastructure constitutes a threat to global energy security, he said, as well as to the peoples of the region and its environment. Russia condemned it too, noting South Pars sits near Iran's Bushehr nuclear plant, which Russia built and helps operate. And here's the part that ties this entire sequence together, the thing you will not hear framed correctly anywhere else. South Pars and North Field are the same gas formation. They share the same underground reservoir beneath the Persian Gulf. Iran extracts from the north side, Qatar extracts from the south side. On March 18th, Israel bombed the Iranian extraction point. Hours later, Iran bombed the Qatari processing point. Both ends of the same gas deposit attacked on the same day by opposing sides of the same war. Qatar condemned both. That is the position Qatar now occupies. Its shared gas field damaged from the Iranian side by Israel, its security partner and its processing facility destroyed from the Gulf side by Iran, the neighbor it shares the Field with. No country on Earth has been put in a worse energy position by a single day of combat since this war began. Most people think this is just about Iran and Israel trading blows. In reality, this is about the entire Persian Gulf energy architecture being dismantled from two directions at once, and nobody's rebuilding anything while the missiles are still flying. Stay with me because the economic fallout from the single day of strikes is where the real damage lives. And towards the end, I will show you why nobody is coming to fix it. Brent crude is above $18 per barrel. That is nearly 50% higher than where it stood before the war. WTI is hovering around $100. Diesel in the United States has crossed $5 a gallon for the first time since the 2022 inflation surge. The Federal Reserve held interest rates on March 18th, citing elevated uncertainty from the war, and U.S. producer prices are climbing at the fastest rate in 7 months. European benchmark gas futures jumped 50% when Qatar first halted production on March 2nd. Asian LNG prices surged 39% the same day. After the South Pars and Ras Laffan strikes, European gas climbed another 6%. Most people think the Strait of Hormuz is blocked by Iranian warships. In reality, Iran shut it down with a handful of drone strikes and let the insurance industry do the rest. Shipping through Hormuz has been sharply curtailed. Reuters reported hundreds of vessels halted or at anchor in and around the Gulf with around 20,000 seafarers stranded as the security situation deteriorated. No insurer, no transit. The most powerful navy in history cannot force Lloyd's of London to write a policy. Iran did not need a blockade. It weaponized commercial risk aversion. A few cheap drones, a couple of burning tankers, and the global shipping industry made the decision to stop on its own. Trump called for a naval coalition: China, Japan, South Korea, France, the UK. He asked all of them to send warships. Germany's government responded formally: as long as this war continues, there will be no participation, not even in any effort to keep the Strait of Hormuz open by military means. Greece said no. The UK's Prime Minister Starmer said, we will not be drawn into the wider war. Nobody came. The International Energy Agency released 400 million barrels from emergency reserves. That covers roughly 20 days of normal HORM flow, 4 days of total global consumption. The U.S. Strategic Petroleum Reserve held about 415 million barrels before the war, and its maximum drawdown rate is 4.4 million barrels a day. Even after a presidential order, oil takes 13 days to reach American markets. On March 18th, the Treasury Department eased sanctions on Venezuela to allow U.S. companies to buy from the state oil firm. Iraq struck a deal with Kurdish authorities to push 250,000 barrels a day through a pipeline to Turkey. Saudi Arabia is rerouting some crude through Red Sea pipelines. These are not solutions. These are tourniquets. And beyond fuel, the Strait of Hormuz carries a share of the world's LNG exports that serve as feedstock for nitrogen-based fertilizers. Those fertilizers grow the staple grains that provide more than 40% of global caloric intake. India has invoked emergency powers to protect 333 million households dependent on LPG. The UN's humanitarian chief, Tom Fletcher, warned that millions of people are at risk if cargo cannot pass through the strait safely. This is not just an energy crisis. It is a food crisis waiting to detonate. CENTCOM confirmed it struck more than 90 Iranian military targets on Karg Island while preserving the oil infrastructure there. On March 18th, U.S. forces used multiple 5,000 lb bunker buster munitions on hardened Iranian missile sites along the Hormuz coastline. The Pentagon has submitted a request to Congress for more than $200 billion in war funding. 6 American airmen are dead, killed in a KC-135 crash. Their dignified transfer was held at Dover on March 18th. Meanwhile, Joe Kent, the director of the National Counterterrorism Center and a longtime Trump loyalist, resigned over the war, citing pressure from Israel. U.S. intelligence chief Tulsi Gabbard told Congress that Iran's government has been degraded but appears intact. Thran and its proxies remain capable of striking American bases and interests across the region. Iran's Foreign Minister Arachi addressed the assassinations directly. I do not know why the Americans and the Israelis still have not understood this point. The Islamic Republic has a strong political structure with established institutions. The presence or absence of a single individual does not affect this structure. Whether that is true or not is the central unanswered question of this war. Iran has lost its supreme leader, its top security coordinator, its BOSIJ commander, and its intelligence minister in 19 days. Arachi says the machine keeps running, but no analyst outside Iran can confirm who is making targeting decisions right now, who controls escalation authority, or whether the civilian government and the IRGC are still operating from the same playbook. The war is 19 days old. It is accelerating. There's no ceasefire framework on any table. There's no back channel that anyone will confirm. And the people who had the standing to negotiate one are being buried in tan right now. Oh, the question that no government involved can answer today is not who is winning. It is whether anyone left in a position of authority has a plan for how this ends. That is based on reality and not on the version of events they are telling their own public. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate your support. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Who do you think is winning the war? Do you think the war is getting out of hand? Let me know. Please subscribe and like the video if you want to stay updated, and click the video on the screen to see another. I'll see you soon.